Hi, this is 365801 and this is a reading wrap-up video for the month of March, and this is for the complete month of March, so it runs from the 1st through to the 31st. Now the month of March is kind of a month of two halves, in the fact that there's a half where I feel like I was productive, and then there's a half when I was really distracted and did not get done the things that I said I was going to get done. And I'm going to be upfront and honest about that. Now, I remember listening to the astrology podcast, shout out to them, because I actually really enjoy listening to them. And it does kind of give me a sense of what's to come. They did their forecast for the month of March and they said, oh, it's a month full of distractions, there's going to be ups and downs, you're not going to get done the stuff that you want to get done, and you might end up doing things that you didn't plan on doing, and you kind of get that done, but it's not what you originally thought you were going to do. And that's kind of how March ended up being. Even if you're forewarned and forearmed, is sometimes fate is fate, you just can't fight it. So yeah, I did some of the reading on my TBR and I didn't do some of the reading on my TBR. I'm just going to be honest and say that that's how the month went. I did an awful lot of reading, but it isn't necessarily the things that I had planned on doing. If you have watched my Buzzword Readathon TBR and recommendation video for the month of March, I'll put a link somewhere in the corner, then you know that my TBR for the Buzzword Readathon was actually really small. Just a couple of print titles and I think 3 or 4 Futekia titles, so not very much at all. And I did all that, so that's great, yay! And I'll tell you all about it in a bit. But I also had some other things and I didn't get that done. So yeah, let's just head on over to that. So in front of you, you can see a huge pile of Hinako Takanaga's works. It's the Omnibus Little Butterfly and it's also the full 6 volumes of Awkward Silence. Oh dear. That is not to say that I didn't start reading both of these series. I did, and then I kind of got a little bit anxious about which ones I was reading and when I was reading them during the month, and it started to just kind of stress me out. So I just kind of put them both to the side and moved on to the distractions, which were many and wonderful this month. So I didn't get them done. I did talk about, in my Tome Topple video, I'll put another wee link up, about what it means to be reading tomes. And I had for the Tome Topple a prose in mind, which I will talk about, which was Male Romance, not manga, and also this particular title, Little Butterfly Omnibus, because it is over the 500 page mark. So, this is not the first time I have not completed it during the Tome Topple time period, which was like 2 weeks, so I had plenty of time, but I just kept getting distracted. Awkward Silence as well. I started it, I got straight into the first volume, I got very near the end of the first volume and then got distracted by other things. So both of these will go onto a list. And this is maybe the first time I'm talking about this list. I think I've mentioned it in the comments a couple of times when people have asked about things, especially Red Theatre, someone was talking about, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to add it to a list. So since the start of the year, whenever I've had a TBR and I haven't managed to get everything done, I've written down what I didn't get finished during that TBR month, and it's going on a separate list. And it's like my Futekia list that I didn't get finished and my physical print list that I didn't get finished. And at some point I will do a reading all of the TBRs that you didn't get finished, and I'll probably make a video about it. So yeah, these two did not get finished, which is a real shame, but I'm okay about it. I will get round to it. I don't feel the stress now that the month is over, and it's quite a good thing to have this month period. It's almost as though there's a point in time when you start to stress about getting things done, and then you have to forgive yourself for not being perfect. This is a cycle I'm going on every month. Because you're like, it's fine, you're okay, don't worry about it, you just didn't finish it in the time period you wanted to. Deadlines. I really am starting to think maybe I have ADHD. That's maybe what it is. Okay. But yeah, anyway, these did not get read, or at least they got started, they just didn't get completed. Which I'm a little bit sad about, but never mind. Now for the Buzzword Readathon for the month of March, I had the brilliant, fantastic idea, of course, that I would make a reading vlog. And so I filmed some things like me eating breakfast and chatting and going for walks and all the little lovely flowers and spring stuff that I saw along the way, and me reading and talking about the books. And I wasn't sure if I should put this in or not, because it's actually quite fun to see me doing these things and my raw reaction to certain things in the books. But also, it's just a lot easier in editing if I just go, here's what I thought of the book, and here's a boring shot of the book. But yeah, I'm putting the shots in so you can see that they're more interesting. But also, when I actually started making the vlog, I felt it was a bit too boring, honestly. You don't see me, you don't see my face, so I don't know if a vlog is more interesting or not. So I don't know, I don't know if I want to do vlogs. Let me know in the comments down below. I have done vlogs before, but for the night's Buzzword Readathon, and I don't know if it was entertaining or not. So maybe I'll put in a few shots. Here's some of the raw stuff of me actually reading and my raw reactions. Okay, so I already know, you can see that this is really stupid and funny, so it's gonna be a good one. Honestly, I did not know I was gonna like this so much. Look at this, look at these wee chippies, they're so cute. Why is this cat human person smoking? That's not on. Why are they doing that? So far this seems to be just a very silly little thing, which is what I thought it was, but it's really fast. The first one was all about a bunny guy who got lonely when his owner left him, and then the second one is all about a cat guy who's actually very funny to see a grown man but with cat ears doing things that cats do, and the chibi expressions are really cute. I don't know if you can see. He's super funny rolling around on paper. So. Okay, so I'm halfway through Part-Time Pets. It seems to be that half of it is about the sort of animal-human hybrid stories, and there's 3 of them. One with the bunny, one with the cat, and then another one with the dog. And they're all very stupid and kind of funny and kind of sweet and a little bit totes emotion. Some of the stories are actually like really like, oh. And then it starts on another story, which Kwaimiko Love Shrine, about someone who is a Kwaimiko, or like a love shrine. And this conversation that happens between the Kwaimiko, who's the boy, and the siblings that all live at the shrine, and they basically offer sexual favors for varying fees. And the Kwaimiko, the brother, has to perform them, and he's like, nah, I ain't doing that. I'm not being felt up by some old dude who paid 50 quid. They do have like the different terms for it, and then the sister says, oh, maybe we should have a cherry blossom hand job for $1,000 in between the pine and bamboo sessions. And of course he's like, no, this is a whorehouse, this is not a shrine. And then this line from the brother, the older brother: these are divine ceremonies, not sexual favors, therefore it's not illegal. And that just 100% spoke to me about how sex and the sex industry and prostitution is kind of viewed in Japan by various people. That as long as you call it something else, it's not actually prostitution. So, but there's twice that they've mentioned, like in these stories at the beginning with all of the, cute animal ears. They talked about the recession and the economy and how bad it is, and then here they're mentioning it again. So it makes me wonder, like when was this originally written? 2003. Yeah, so they would have still been in quite a bad way in their economy at that point. So yeah, I can see why the economy permeates everywhere, even to BL. So I'm gonna keep reading this and finish my toast. So I just finished reading this. It didn't take me too long. And yeah, it was exactly what I expected it to be in terms of the type of story. It's just very silly, very surface. There was a couple of little moments when you think, oh, that's sweet, or oh, that's nice. But mostly I just really loved the chibis, and you can see some little chibi figures there. Their chibi drawings are really good. I really like the chibi drawings and chibi expressions. They're really cute. The second story about the shrine maiden type thing wasn't as soft and fluffy and light-hearted. There's a bit more emotion in that one, but overall, I mean, it's okay. I wouldn't go out of your way to pay a lot for this in terms of the reading experience, but the chibis are great, so I might try and draw some of the chibis from it, because it's definitely been put in my cute chibis to try and draw pile. I think I'm going to get properly dressed and ready and go out for a walk and enjoy the sunshine, because it's really bright outside, but it is quite windy, so we'll see if there's any spring flowers coming up yet. So the first read that I did for the Buzzword readathon for this month, which of course is Time, was Part-Time Pets by Reno Amagi, which is a Dieu title that I have in print. I have not read because I always thought it looked like trash. Having read it, I now know that it is trash, but it's kind of funny. In fact, I really enjoyed reading it. It was very stupid, very silly, very throwaway, but I gotta say, I love a good chibi, and the chibis in this were super cute because they were not only chibi, they were chibi with animal ears. And even the humans were quite funny with their chibiness. So the comedy aspect of it was quite high. The art style in general is not to my taste. And it was very much like, I want to say like Skylink, was that it? It's like something I read recently. That one about the boarding school, where the drawing style was not really to my taste and the stories were a bit rubbish, but the chibis were great, and the chibis were great in this. But the stories actually had a few, like heartwarming, emotional touches as well. So half the book is about the animal ear characters, and they kind of are hired out to different settings and end up falling in love. And the other half was about a sort of shrine maiden who ends up having the power to grant love to anyone depending on how much contact they have with this person, and he ends up falling in love with his teacher. So yeah, half of it, I much preferred the animal ears, to be honest, and I didn't think I would say that at the beginning, but the animal ears were cute, and especially when you see humanoid people with just animal ears doing stuff that the animals would do. Especially the cat one was hilarious, especially when you see this human person doing all these things that a cat would do. So it was a lot more enjoyable than I had thought it was going to be. So I'm glad that I actually read it. And I might want to try and recreate drawings some of these chibis as well. Definitely getting put on my chibi list for the year. So the next one that I have that's a physical copy is The President's Time, Tamaki Kirishima. So I'm going to need to take the plastic off. This is an 801 title. I just don't really like the artwork. I'm like, that's not really my style. So maybe the story's funny. I haven't even read the back. Don't know what it's about. I'm guessing there's a president, some sort of business. Okay, so I'm just going to point out, they're talking about the recession again in this one too. I mean, I'm not surprised it's a business-based one. But oh my goodness, did the recession just, you know, like become a huge topic for BL or what? Why are they always talking about the recession? Anyway, I'm just going to point out, this guy's called Mutsuki, and he's 27, and his dad died 8 years ago, and he's the president of this company. Nepotism much? Okay. I don't have much of a faith in him being actually any good at his job. 27 and the president? Too young. Anyway. His father's last request was to become an evil president. What is this? This is gonna be rubbish. Okay, so I'm a little bit more invested in this than I thought I was gonna be. It's very stupid. It's kind of got so this character is Mitsuki. He is Mitsuki-sama. He is the shacho. This guy here is his brother, who has like natural sadistic vibes. So he really should have been the evil president, because Mitsuki can't actually be evil. And then here we've got is it Mochizuki? He's the chauffeur, and he obviously has feelings for Mitsuki, but it's obvious that the two of them are probably going to get it on, the evil brother and the driver, the chauffeur, because Mitsuki's already got someone he is hankering after, Tori, a guy who works in his company. Anywho, it's quite interesting so far. It does have like Oren High School Host Club vibes, but not in the manga sense, in the anime sense, because Mitsuki's kind of like Tamaki. Like, he's stupid, and also his like dad's dying wish was for him to be an evil president, so he's like the very definition of be gay, do evil. Only he can't be doing the evil stuff. So in a way he is a lot like Tamaki, because Tamaki's like a wee ray of sunshine, and is also kind of be gay, do evil. Obviously it's not as evil as Kyoya. I love Kyoya. Mon ami! Love Oren. I kind of want to watch Oren now, because it's giving me those like fun, stupid vibes, but it's not actually anywhere near as good. So we'll see. It is interesting. And then here he meets up with Tori again. Tori actually works for him in his company, but he doesn't know that yet. But here when he was going out and getting snacks, look at his hair, it's just ridiculous. Can you see that? But like a meat bun, oh, and I could so eat one now. Oh, it'd be so delicious. You just don't get them here. It's just not the same. You know? Something you get used to eating, like, oh, I'm a little bit peckish, I'll just pop into the Lawson or the 7-Eleven, and it's like 100 yen, and you get this meat bun or a curry bun or any kind of, and it's just like, oh yeah, I could eat one right now. I will make my dinner later, but I'm gonna read this first, so yeah. Oh my god, look how old that phone is. Flip a phone. I didn't have one like this. I kind of bypassed it. I had a really old brick for so long that by the time that I was getting a new one, flip phones weren't really around. They'd morphed into something else. But they were still in Japan when I moved to Japan, and that was like smartphones were starting to come out then, so even that was a long time ago. Jeez. Oh, dun dun dun! Mitsuki's been kidnapped! Oh dear. This is such a silly story. But I'm impressed with the binding. I'm impressed with the binding. This is such a stupid panel. That's a tie. He's just putting his fingers through. This is so stupid. I can't say I'm not enjoying it though. Does it? Kakui. Sometimes when I read very simple lines like this one here, that's so lame and that's so cool. I know what the Japanese is, or I know what the Japanese would be. So it's something like I can hear their voices and their Japanese speech rather than the English. I don't know. That's just something that happens. Do you guys hear that? Do you know Japanese as well? I did. He had no idea it meant this. I knew. Called it. Read too much. This isn't my first rodeo. Oh dear. Looks like there's some issues. Has he not been evil enough? So I ended up finishing The President's Time, Shacho no Ojikan, and it was as silly as I thought it was going to be. It was quite entertaining, not gonna lie. There were bits that I did laugh out loud about, and the characters you do end up kind of just falling for and getting on with, and you do kind of like it, you know, how it goes. This moment here is the best, when Mitsuki finally did become evil. He became the evil president. Tori's brothers are stupid. Mitsuki's brother is stupid. There is a little bit of like if I told you something that would be like, didn't see that coming, so I'm not gonna say. It is very, very stupid. It's very silly, but it was entertaining enough. But it's very much of its time. So once again, I would say, just like Part-Time Pets, there's bits to it that I like the chibis. Once again, I like the chibis. They're like classic chibis, big heads, small bodies, crazy hair, the extreme expressions. It's a fair little way to spend a bit of time, but I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna go out my way to get more Tamaki Kirishima work. Like, not that there'd be any more published anyway. I don't think so anyway. I know that I do have like Rough Love, which is another one of her works I haven't read yet, and I do have like 2 copies of these, so. But yeah, at least I've read it now, The President's Time. So I think I will move on to maybe some Futekia. I think I might read some Futekia next. I think I'll make something to eat and also get my computer out and try not to get distracted by going on Twitter and checking out more Chinese BL stuff that I really want to read or watch or just look at the pretty pictures of. But yeah, I think I might get my computer out, do some work and make something to eat. Now the second print or physical read that I did for the Buzzword for March was The President's Time. This is Tamaki Kirishima. This is an 801 title. It's quite chunky, it's quite thick. It did take me quite a while to get through actually. It's dense, there's a lot of story in here. And yet there's nothing happens. Like most things. You don't need to, it doesn't need to be actually there. But yeah, it's I guess it's about a young CEO who's been tasked by his father who passed away to become an evil president. So he needs to do evil things, but he's deep down a very lovely, sweet person, and so he has a real hard time doing any evil deeds. And he ends up meeting someone who is someone he really gets on well with, and they're his ally of justice. So they keep each other. They help cheer each other on, which is dead sweet. And there's a whole cast of characters. All of the siblings have either a brother complex or a sister complex, that kind of thing. It's very much, they all have brother complexes, obviously. But the sisters also have brother complexes. And some of the brothers, so yeah, everyone has that. Except for the two main leads who are just like into each other. And this one also had some cute chibis. So I would put this down as a one to maybe try and do the chibis. They look a little bit more complex, but I did enjoy it. The stupidity of it, the slapstick element to it. This is very much a comedy, and it's quite dense. There's lots of little elements to it, so it's quite an involved comedy. Very much episodic. This happens and this happens and this happens in each of the different chapters. So it was worth giving it a read. Do I think I will read it again? Not for a good long while. It's not got great rereadability, I don't think, for at least a couple of years. So it's kind of like in 2 years' time, give this another read, because by then you'll have forgotten some of the jokes and they'll feel fresh again. Because some of the jokes were funny, and some of the little one-liners, and also some of the things that made you think, oh, there was a lot of that this month. I'm gonna get into it, but there was a lot of I did not know that was where this was gonna go, or I did not know that that's how the dynamic of that pairing was going to be, and I'm okay with that. So there was a lot of that going on this month, and I enjoyed that a lot. There was a lot of that this month. So yeah, I've been enjoying the surprise of the positions. So yeah, the President's Time was actually more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. So as part of the Buzzword Readathon, I read Every Time We Touch, I Hear That Sound on Frutekia. This is Hayane Dento's work, and I don't think I've actually read any of her work. She's got 4 pieces on Frutekia, so this is the first one, due to the fact that it has the time in it. And it's about 2 guys who it's just sweet. It's just a nice, cute little school setting romance, and it's just dead, kind of quiet and slow and lovely. It's nice. It's just nice. Toji is one of the characters, but he lives next to a mountain, and he spent a lot of time with his grandfather and in the mountains, and he's not antisocial, but he just doesn't really like being around people or being in contact with people or talking to people, so he's a wee bit antisocial. On one day he's taking the train, and unfortunately or fortunately he ends up having like one of his strings or cords or something, part of his uniform ends up getting wrapped around the button of some other commuter that ends up being another student, and that's Itsuki, and they end up chatting. He ends up giving him a bar of like a cereal bar for breakfast because his stomach growls, and he says it's for God, and that kind of confuses Toji quite a bit. And they kind of end up meeting. That's their meet cute, and I do like a good meet cute. That's how their kind of relationship starts. It's just sweet, it's lovely, and because it has that sort of like a mountain feel, it feels like, vegetables growing and rain on plants and the sound of insects and the smell of wet ground in the air. It just has a nice refreshing feel to it. It goes through the seasons, but it always has this nice light refreshing feel. It's like kind of like a Natsume Yujincho type of atmosphere to it. It's just a nice all-round good little manga. I enjoyed it a lot. The artwork seems quite kind of sparse at times. there's a lot of panels where it's just the character and there's no background, no tone, it's just lines, but each of the lines is important and tells the story, i.e. it shapes the person and their expression. And then there are other panels where it's a lot more depth and there's layering and texture and it's more painterly. And so I like the artwork a lot, it's nice. And I just like all the little cultural touches, with the wind chimes and the festivals and things like that. And it, that kind of reminds me of Japan. So yeah, it was a nice one. Every time we touch, I hear that sound. And I know that whole thing with the sound is part of the title, but I don't think it really reflects. I don't think this title reflects the work as well as, I don't know, maybe the Japanese one. Kimi ni wa fureru to naru toko ga atte. I don't know. So yeah, it's a nice one. There's only 2 spicy chilies, but it's just a sweet, sweet little story. So yeah, it's a good one if you're looking for some nice feels. I also read No Matter How Many Times It Takes on the Futekia website, and that is by Anya Yuichi. This is a self-contained 2-volume series, and it is pure perfection. I absolutely love it. If anyone could produce a print English volume version of this story, I would snap it up. Easy peasy, money gone out of the, here you go, just take my money. I absolutely love this story so much. It's so sweet. There's elements to it that I love. One of the first elements is the choppy back and forth nature of the time frame. So it's not told in sequential chronological order, and that's for a very good reason. But it does mean that you, as the reader, are only privy to what you are shown, and therefore you understand certain aspects of their relationship, the 2 main characters. The other reason why I like it is because it's specifically to do with someone who has lost their memory, and therefore it is a reflection of their sort of choppy memory, the disconnect between what's happening and fragments of memories and thoughts and feelings, and it does lend itself really well to invoking that whole situation for the character, which is just so intelligent, and I really love smart, intelligent works. I've come to realise that those are the ones that I really put up on a pedestal, the ones that I feel like they are on the masterpiece level. They're in my top tier works, and this is definitely one of them because there's aspects to it that I love. The non-chronological order, but yet by the end of it you feel like you've gotten the whole picture, which is really nice without it being huge exposition at the end. It's just really nicely done. The artwork is very much her style, which means that you do get comedic chibi faces and extreme emotions, and you get beautiful artwork, and some of the characters are just beautifully drawn, and then there's almost a beauty grotesqueness to some of the panels as well. And I know that her artwork isn't going to be to everyone's taste, but I really like it because it does basically have a bit of everything and just blends all together, and yet still comes across as being cohesive as one person's artwork, which I think is really impressive. There's other aspects as well, like when it comes to how the sex is drawn, because this is for spicy chili work, so expect it. And that's because tone and atmosphere and pressure and tension is really built into the sex scenes, almost in a sort of dangerous way, as though a kind of like a Harada kind of way. It's it's very much like, it's like when a bow is strung very tightly, or a spring is coiled, and it's that tension of where is this going to go. And because you're reading through the story and you don't know how it's going to go, you don't know if this is going to latch into a dangerous territory, if something's going to blow up, if the tension will be broken, and what's going to happen, what will the consequences be. And yet there's that sort of sweet, cute, lovely intimacy there as well. So yeah, there's that sense of underlying, ooh, what's going to happen? How's this going to be resolved? In the way that Harada usually pays it off with being like, oh no, this is what happened. This work is the happy ending that I love. So yeah, spoiler, it's a lovely ending. But it's BL, so you'd expect that. And it is, there's a lovely cast of characters as well. So the main two characters, Takehiro and Taro, but you get to know them as Fuji and Koto as well, because that's another aspect. The intimacy of their relationship can also be defined by how they call each other, in what way they refer to each other, and you can see what point in time in the history of in what way they refer to each other. It's just one of those things. It's not really too much of a spoiler to say how it starts, because it's even in the synopsis. Takehiro is unfortunately in a bit of a freak accident, which sounds really like a freak accident, but I met a girl who also experienced this. There was like a signage board, and it fell and hit him on the head, and he got rushed to hospital, and he had lost 2 years of memories. So he's almost 19, he's like 18, just about to turn 19, and the last 2 years of his life gone. But everything seems to be like, he kind of knows how to do certain things, so he's having to try and work out what's been going on in the past 2 years. Unfortunately, in that interim time period, almost to the point, and you do kind of make that connection in your head, like, is it just the past 2 years, or is it from the moment that he started this relationship with Taro, and it's the memory of their relationship that's gone. It's kind of that whole thing of, and so that's why it's called No Matter How Many Times It Takes. They will fall in love again. That's who he's meant to be with, and it's just so sweet. So that's what you're trying to root for from day one, but you're also trying to see if he can navigate this new world that he's in. It's really, really good. But yeah, the lady that I knew, she was a student at the university I went to, and she was someone I used to sit next to. We'd go to lectures together, maybe go grab a coffee afterwards, and she just disappeared. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen, her in ages. And then she pitched up at the exam, and I was like, how are you getting on? And she was like, well, yeah, I was in the hospital for a month and a half because a signboard fell on me, like literally off the side of a building. Some guys were doing, like, they had scaffolding up, and they were putting board signage on the side of the scaffolding because they were about to do work on the inside of the building. And unfortunately, it was a windy day, and a sign bit just came out of whatever it was, their hands or the screws and stuff, and just hit her on the head, knocked her out completely, and she ended up in the hospital. And she was out of it coma-wise for a couple of days, and then was in the hospital for a while. They were having to do loads of tests, and then she had to come back to uni and take her exams. It was like, but you missed half the course. And she was like, I know, it was terrible. I'm probably failed. So yeah, it's called a freak accident, but it does happen. So I didn't think I'd ever meet someone in real life, but yeah, no, I did. So, but this is a brilliant work. Absolutely, 100%, 5-star. Would recommend, no matter how many times it takes, by Yuichi Aniya. Just so fantastic. Everything about it screams, you will love this work, to me. And I do. I love it. if this was in print, I would buy it. Definitely. So I just finished reading volume 1 of Pure Love Sexy Time, and I forgot how much I actually enjoy it. I think I was confusing it with one for other ones, which I have digital from June Manga, which is a single volume one. This one, yeah, I remember now reading it, and it has been a long time, probably about 2 years since I last read it. And I do like some of the artwork. It is nice. This is the second volume. And then you've got some nice artwork here at the front cover, like insert. It would have been anyway, if we ever actually get it. And I forgot how much I actually liked all of these characters. They're very silly. It's very comedic, and it's full of smexy times with these teenage high school boys. So if you're not into high school boys, then steer clear. But they're basically, they all end up pairing off, as you would imagine. But I'm so happy about Satoshi! Because there's a Satoshi in this this little group. And of course he was the last one, and he got kind of left out. And I was feeling all sorry for another Satoshi left alone. So I finished volume 1, and I'm gonna do volume 2, but I'm gonna have one of these vegan magnums, and this is salted caramel, and I didn't even know that they did a salted caramel one till I found it in the shops, and I was like, bye! It was on special as well. It was only $1.99 for a pack of 3, so I'm like, I'll have you. So yeah, salted caramel magnum, and then a bit of a Pure Love Sexy Times. I'll finish this off and probably go to bed. I also read Pure Love Sexy Time, volumes 1 and 2, so just like no matter how many times it takes, it's a 2-volume series. The only difference is that Pure Love's Sexy Time also has, from Psychedelico, who is the mangaka, kind of like continuations of the stories of the individual characters in Psychedelics. The Psychedelics is a range of doujinshi that Psychedelico created for various different works that she did. So some of the characters in Pure Love Sexy Time have a kind of offshoot doujinshi story as well, which I think I might own 1 or 2 of, but it's been a long time since I packed up my boxes of stuff, and it would be nice to go through them and see if I do. Anyway, Pure Love Sexy Time is about 4 boys initially, and one of them has a bit of a crush on one of the others. Actually, maybe there's more than that. And is it Kishi and Ko? Yeah, Kishi and Ko. They kind of have this sort of unspoken connection with each other. There's also Mitsuru Kojima, Michan, who kind of sees all and knows all. And then there's Sato-chan, who just is very immature and seems like, you know, the joker of the pack. Kishi's the tall, quiet one, and Ko is the sort of cute but forthright one. And the first story is about Kishi and Ko and how they kind of get to know that they might actually have feelings for each other. And then the next story is about Michan, who gets sort of accosted by this new student who keeps on thinking of him as some sort of girl, but actually it turns out it was Michan when he was younger, because he was so cute. He was like a girl. Taro comes along. He's been around and kind of comes back to the area. So these 2 couples end up getting it on and having absolute nonsense stories. Absolutely nonsense. I'm really hammering it home. It's full of nonsense. It's very much psychedelical, and it's very nonsensical. It's funny, but it's also silly, but also kind of a little bit sweet at times, depending on which story it is. And the one that really got me was Satoshi's. bless him, bless his little cotton socks, because even though he comes across as being really stupid and the resident idiot of the group, he's really sensitive and sweet, and he notices that he's being left out, and he is fully aware that his friends are sort of engaged in some other sort of activity and not paying any attention to him, and he's fully aware of that, and it's kind of sad. Anyway, he ends up meeting this beautiful boy who's very tall and slim and has the most wonderful eyes, and he likes beating up Yankees because he wants to be friends with them. It's very stupid, as I said. Anyway, Satoshi's just great. I love Satoshi. And it's just their relationship. And I really liked how the first volume sets up all of their relationships, and then the second volume really takes it further. And once again, I told you I was going to get into it. It sets up the idea that actually what you think, if you're an old OG, BL Fujoshi fan, what you have traditionally been fed, as in these are the norms of this is the uke and this is the seme, we're going to flip this around a wee bit. And I really liked that. This whole month, so many of the works that I've been reading have had that, well, you know what, let's just make it so that everyone's a little bit more flexible about positions in bed. And, it's not safe to assume that you're not, that you're getting everything you want or need out of a sexual relationship just by being in this position. That maybe you might want something more, or maybe you might want something different, or maybe you just like to try it. And so be open to that other person. And I really liked that. I really liked that it was a little bit more relaxed. The dynamics were a bit more open. And the second volume, I thought, it's just going to be more of the same. And it wasn't. It ramped it up. It really elevated it. It made me feel like, that was a good first volume. And at the end it was like, damn, I like the second volume. I really want to read the doujinshi. So yeah, that's why I was like, I think I have one. I can't remember which one it is, but there is a series of doujinshi. So yeah, I think I bought one in like a second-hand doujinshi store. I think it was in Kobe. Yeah, I think it was in Kobe. But yeah, I loved it actually, and because I'd kind of gone in thinking that this was going to be the one that I don't really like, the Ero manga one, I was so pleasantly surprised that it was these guys. It was like coming back and be like, it's them. I love them. And I do. I really enjoyed this. So yeah, it restored the faith in Psychedelico that I needed restored again. So if you've watched, by the time this is out, then my March manga haul will be out, and I got a Psychedelico title, and Bizarre Individual said that he did not like this. So I was like, oh no. So yeah, it was good to be reading this and going, yes, I do like some Psychedelico works. I do like some of her jokes. I do like some of her emotional beats within the story. I liked the pace. So yeah, I was really happy about this. It was a good one. I'm not sure I would say full 5 stars, but I'm pretty up there on a 3.5 to 4. Definitely. It was good. So the final work that I read for the Buzzword Readathon for the month of March is a Futekia title, and it is Playtime Ends Here by Matsumoto Miyako House, which I have said I already have like 1 or 2 of her works in English, and that I had planned to read one of the works on Futekia called The Beautiful Greenness because it had a colour in it. I was supposed to read it in February. Did I? No. Why? Because when I clicked on it, I thought, oh, it looks like it's like 2 or 3 volumes long and I just want something quick and easy. I'll choose this other thing. I think, and it ended up being Sneaky Red, which was like 3 volumes long as well. I was like, why did I you choose poorly. But yeah, I should have chosen The Beautiful Greenness, because what I ended up picking out, Playtime Ends Here, is a spin-off manga of The Beautiful Greenness, because the very last chapter had a The Beautiful Greenness extra, and I was like, god damn it, what? Because I actually really enjoyed it. The artwork, the promotional artwork for The Beautiful Greenness did not appeal to me, but the artwork for this one, Playtime Ends Here, did appeal to me, and then the artwork inside did appeal to me as well. And the story itself felt very grown up. It's about 2 editors, Kudo and Hisakawa, who are in charge of an author called Taro, who I'm assuming is one of the main characters in A Beautiful Greenness, because I did have a wee sneak peek at the extra and was like, oh, okay, right, so I'm going to need to go back and read, I should say, The Beautiful Greenness, so I can understand this little extra. I really liked this. It was about 2 guys, adults, who just kind of end up going, okay, let's give it a go. And they end up having sex. And I did like how it was just kind of like, whoa, that was not expected. But at the same time, kind of felt very natural for them. And the trials and tribulations of navigating what is obviously, and in reading this work, it was like, there's a story here that I'm not getting. There's a story here that's been told that I don't know. And that's when it was like, the penny dropped. Like, these characters already exist in another work, and you haven't read that work, which is a terrible place to be in. But I feel like I was competent as a reader to be able to recognise that. And I felt good about myself. So at least it was satisfying. I felt like smug about it. Like, I think I'm missing something here. There's been a story told. And so I was still able to enjoy it, even though I hadn't read the original work. I'm assuming there'll be like a bit of an issue there with these characters. And the fact that the 2 of them, had issues that they had to deal with. I liked it. It felt very grown up. It felt like a mature work for people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and beyond, and not necessarily for teenagers. So I liked that this was a mature work for mature ladies and men. So yeah, I liked that. I really enjoyed this as my final read for the Buzzword Readathon. It was a good ending, solid. And I would say, yeah, solid 3 or 4 stars. 4 stars, I think. Yes. Now, after the Buzzword Readathon, and before I get into the 2, if not 3, very large unplanned distractions that I had in the month of March, I do think it's important to talk about 2 of the titles that I had a wee gander at and a little bit of a read of on the Leshin site. And the first one is, of course, Love is an Illusion by Fargo. And I do think it's important to just kind of mark it in some way that this creator has made this work that so many people love, and it was so important, and it's still so important, and it has been so important to me for such a long time, and it's been really helping me get through. I mean, I remember every time I had to go to work and I hated it, and it was just awful, and every Monday it was like, don't worry, at the end of this first day of hell you will come home and there will be a chapter ready for you, and it will make getting up out of bed okay. And honestly, it was like the only thing keeping me going, because I was ready to throw in the towel, which I eventually did, but still we won't go into that. But if it wasn't there every Monday, I know I wouldn't have managed. And so thank you to Fargo. It really did feel at the start of March, there was an element of a subdued feeling, and I was like, why am I feeling so down about this? Why am I feeling so down about anything? And then it was like, yes, this is why. It's loss, it's bereavement. you're losing something that you really love on a regular basis. But don't worry, she'll make something new and you will love it too, because I will, and I know I will. So I'm looking forward to what comes next. So I've gone through my grieving process and I feel much better about it. But it was sweet to see her creator's note and for her to talk about what she might be planning to do next. So yeah, I was happy about that. I also bought a couple of extra chapters of A Man of Virtue, which also finally completed as well in March. I mean, oh my god, March! I don't have it all though, so I'm still on the collecting coins as and when I can, and I got quite a few free coins in March, and I managed to get a couple of extra chapters of A Man of Virtue. So I'm not feeling the pain that everyone else is feeling, but there was so much joy on Twitter and so much positive feeling towards the creators, so that was really lovely and sweet and special to experience. The positive side of the BL fandom online towards creators who have achieved so much. It's a big deal to, create something that's like 13 volumes long. I think that's what they said A Man of Virtue would be, 13 volumes. And yeah, that's a big deal. So, and if they want to print them, I will buy those 13 volumes. Yes, please and thank you. So yeah, those were the good lesson works this month. Now, it was this point in the month where I first encountered my first major distraction, and that was the Chinese BL. Now, I mentioned this already, the Chinese BL was there, it was always there, it's a great distraction, but I kind of forced it back. I was reining myself in, as it were, and then after I'd kind of finished reading some of the Buzzword reads, I kind of just let loose and was like, to hell with the rest of my TBR. just went 100% full throttle at the BL that was Chinese. And so a lot of Word of Honor was watched and fangirled about, and a lot of the spoilers were like, no, run away. And also 1000 Autumns was watched and rewatched and rewatched. And I don't want to go into 1000 Autumns too much here, because I honestly want to make my own separate little video just on 1000 Autumns. Like, hey guys, this is great. But apart from watching the animated version, I also then went on the lookout, as I have previous experience of. And when I say previous, I mean previously convicted of doing, of going around and going, okay, where is this novel? Where is this novel I can find? Can I find this novel somewhere? And unfortunately, the novel is not fully translated and available online in a great form. Some people have done an amazing job. I so enjoyed reading the first, I don't know, like 4/5, maybe it's 2/3. Such great writing, such a great job on the translation. I'm assuming, I don't know what the original is, but it's just such good entertainment in reading it in English, and I got it, I understood, and I really enjoyed it. And then around chapter 92 maybe, I think I got to, and at that stage it's been machine translated, and I just don't want to read it. I don't want to read that version. I don't want to read a version that makes no sense to me in both English grammar and the story as well. So either I will patiently wait, or I will just watch the animated version that I can. But that's a huge chunk of reading right there, and it's a great story. I really enjoyed it, and there was bits about it that I was like, ooh, because they've made some slight changes from what I assume is the story and the animated version. There's some slight changes, but I will talk about that a lot more in an it's like a dedicated own little video because I feel so strongly about this. And the characters are just great. And I'll talk more about it in another video because it's too good. It's too good. So yeah, that was a lot of reading. That's a lot of words. 1,000 Autumns. Go and read it. Or watch it. Go watch it. And fangirl with me. Now, after not being able to complete a story, which I have experienced before, I was back on the live journal days. I was following Chinese translators and not getting the full story ever. I've never finished Hua Hua Long. Is that how you say it? Hua Hua Long? I found out what the story was, and I'm not going there. But because of that, I kind of needed a palate cleanser. And I'm not gonna lie, I just was like, oh, I'll just listen to an audiobook that's available on YouTube. And I did find a male romance that was on YouTube. But I don't think it's supposed to be there. And I'm just saying, I don't think it's supposed to be there. But I listened to it anyway, because it was there. And so I went for a walk, I stretched my legs. Instead of putting a podcast on or music, I put on a male romance novel. And it was a palate cleanser to get rid of this huge big epic that I haven't been able to finish and have this quick, easy story and to listen to it, because very rarely as a manga reader do you get to listen to something in an audio fashion unless you've got the BLCD. And when you do, I kind of like having the book in front of me, so you can't really do that when you're walking. You could, but you might fall over. Just saying. It's not like I haven't done that before, but I've never done it walking. But yeah, so I ended up coming across a list, and on this like playlist, the first one was called Johnny, and it was by Cardino C. And it was really interesting because I was interested because I like the with and without series. And that's like one of my favorites. So I was like cool with the whole shifter, cool with the whole omega, alpha, whatever. And this one is about lions. So they're shifters, but they shift into lions. And I was like, well, okay, then cool. So I listened to it, and I really enjoyed it. And the guy who was doing the audio narration, I think he did a really good job. I was at first like, I'm not sure about this. But very quickly, I got into the story, and I really enjoyed it. And they did a really good job. I was very impressed. The story follows... I was going to say, who does it follow? Johnny is one of the characters. I'm trying to remember what the actual name of the main male character was. Hugh? Or something like that, anyway. It was a very tightly written story. I was very impressed with how easy it was to follow. And this was perfect. It was very short, encapsulated, very easy to see the different stages of the rise and fall of the story. Easy peasy. I think it could have done more. There could have been more to it, but I don't know if there's more to this story or there's more books by this Cardino C, and I might look into that because I enjoyed this so much that I want to go out and purchase books from this person. So I think that was good. Johnny is a siphon, which is a lion that's usually quite weak, but has the ability to hold the power of the premier, who is like the number one lion, who can almost be immortal, but can't procreate. And so that was kind of fun, and I did not know. Do lions actually have that on their penises? I don't know. But I'm just saying, that was interesting. It was it was like David Attenborough watching from the sidelines. But it was very sexy, and it was quite fun to walk around my local area going, oh, this is hot and steamy, and I'm walking past old people going hi, and petting dogs going hi, and just being like, I'm listening to something saucy, and you don't know, which is always good. But yeah, so this was the start of my downfall of the second, or I should say third thing that really got me, because I would kind of count Word of Honor as a separate thing to 1,000 Autumns. So yeah, this was the start of my other downfall. Now, as part of this audio book playlist that someone had made. It did make me think maybe I do need to get an Audible account, which is annoying because it's more stuff that I really don't want to have to pay for every month unless I'm actually using it. And the only thing I ever really wanted from an Audible account was male romance, and I checked like a few years ago and there was like practically nothing. So I was like, well, I'm not doing it then, and just gave up. But I think they must have added a lot more to their catalogue now. And that's the thing with libraries, it gets added to. But I do remember when Audible first came about, I was like, the only thing I want to listen to is male romance, and they didn't have nothing. So I was like, F you, I'm not giving you my money. But they have it now, so I might have to invest in it. Anyway, in this playlist, there was a few titles that were next in the line, and one was Make Me Give In, the next was Make Me Let Go, and then there was a third one, Make Me Trust You. And I was like, ooh, a trilogy, fantastic, I kind of want to know more. I have to say, when I started listening to the Make Me Give In, I did not like the narrator, mainly because a lot of the characters are like the male versions of Valley Girls. It very much sounded like these characters are girls and they're written like girls. They're not written like boys, and their tone and everything, and maybe that was the way he was reading the character when he was doing their speech. So I kind of felt like maybe it'd be better to read this. So I looked online on Amazon and they had the full box set. So it turned out there wasn't just 3, there was 4, and I was like, oh great. So I bought it. I just was like, just read it. And then if you go for walks, you can put the audiobook that's on YouTube, and you paid for it, so you don't have to feel bad. And I don't feel that bad, because reading it and listening to it is a completely different experience, especially because the guy who does the narration, when he's playing certain characters, it's like, oh dude, I hope they paid you well. Anyway, let's get on to it. This is a box set by Angel Knots, who has another pen name, and she writes under another pen name, but other Omega Alpha stuff. This is called the Omega Celibacy Club series, and as I said, the first one is Make Me Give In, and this is when the club is formed. In this universe, it could be described as an Omega verse, I guess. There are Omega and there are Alpha. There is never any mention of betas. So is everyone just either or? There's no in between? So that's interesting. I don't know. Anyway, it's like a frat house. Well, there's basically university students, so age 18, 19 up to 20, 22, that kind of age. And there's 4 guys, and they live in a house together that they rent off campus because they're all Omega and they want to stay together and they don't want to be on campus and having to deal with all these alphas that are and they were going on about how awful they are. And except for one of them, who's like Tristan, who's like, oh, I can't wait to find a man, an alpha to love me, and he's like the most Valley Girl-esque out of all of them. But his character arc, oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love Tristan's character arc. So good. Anyway, his brother is so worried about his younger brother that he decides to make this celibacy club. And it's mainly because one of their other Omega friends has got pregnant by an alpha and left, kind of kicked to the curb, like, here, you do what you want to do. And so he does not want this for himself or his brother. So he decides to say, hey guys, I think we should have a celibacy club. I think we should not be having sex. I think we should all be focusing on getting our degrees, and there should be no alphas, and we should support each other. And I think if that's your common goal, whether you're in an alpha omega verse or if you're in life, I think that's quite a good thing to be focused on, you know, achieving your dreams and not being sort of distracted. That's a good way to think about life. But at the same time, you gotta live your life. You gotta have fun. You know, you gotta live a little. It's quite fun. Like, you know, you're at uni. Let your hair down a bit. So I was kind of like, I was stuck in the mud. Anyway, who's the first to get pregnant? And I love this. I actually really enjoy this. I thought I was going to hate this because it's trash. But I loved it because it's trash. In the same way, it kind of reminded me of the joy I feel when I'm reading my favourite yaoi novel. It's like, this is trash. This is utter shite. But it's gold. And I love it. And would I recommend it to anyone else? No, I would not. And in the same way, would I recommend this to anyone else? No, I would not. And I bet if you're listening to this, you're thinking either one of two things. One, Omegaverse? Nah. Two, that sounds like trash. Sign me up. And it 100% was me going, oh, that looks like trash. No. Okay, yes, I'm in. It did not take me long to be 100% invested in all of these characters. And the writing is not good. It's repetitive. I kind of felt like, come on, use a thesaurus. It's like thesaurus.com. There was a lot of phrases that were very American that I did not know, and I'm wondering if Americans are like, yeah, we use that phrase, because I was like, what? But for me, it was just like, oh, that's the setting. Anyway, each of the different boys, they all find their mate, but not only do they find an alpha for themselves, they find their fated mates, which is something special and rarely ever happens. And by the fourth book, I was like, you're effing kidding me. All four of you found your, in quotes, you know, fated mate that's so rare no one ever finds. BS. But also, and I laughed so hard. That's so stupid. 100%, this is one of the stupidest things I have ever read, and I'm so glad that I did, because it was great. Now, the reason why I read it is also because when I downloaded the full 4 books, it came as one download onto my Kindle, and the final book is like 470 something, almost 80 pages, and I was like, well, that's a tome. I could just read this for tome topple. And then I was like, well, there's 3 books there as well. On top of that, that's like 2.5 tomes. And then it turns out that there's actually an extra little story as well of some of the children of these people. One of them's grown up and he goes to England and he meets Ali, and they're both alphas. And I was like, I am here for this story, because by then I am fully invested in this universe. Oh, so altogether, I don't know how many pages I read, but it was like probably 1,000 pages. Yeah, I would say it's like well over 1,000 pages on the full series. And I 100%, I'm happy about the time I spent on this. It's bad, but I would probably read it again. I honestly would. It's on my Kindle, so I can. It's so bad. I've talked about this for like 10 minutes. So anyway, yeah, it's basically an Omegaverse story. And yeah, it was funny, it was stupid, it was romantic, it was sexy, there was a lot of sex. And I kind of liked it. It was very full of nonsense. And the writing was not brilliant. I think an editor could have helped a little to tighten it up a bit. That would have been better. That's probably why I liked Sherry and Ali's story the best, because it's a small little story, little like vignette at the end, a little chaser, and it was nice and tight. as were their abs. Mwah. They all seem very taut. I don't know, that was just how they were written. I enjoyed it a lot. It was time well spent. And I've just talked about it for 10 minutes. So excuse me if you don't like these male romance stories, but I'm now here for it. I think I'm a convert. So yeah, that was how I spent most of the end of March. Now the second to last thing that I read for the month of March is another Futeki title. It's by Draw 2, and it's I peeped at my childhood friends having sex. This is 5 spicy chilies. I wasn't sure exactly what I was reading. It was easy peasy, throwaway, very sex oriented, little short stories about lots of different characters, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of them actually, in various degrees. The art style felt like a rounded version, a slightly more rounded version, like smoother, rounder, polished, kind of sanitized almost version of gay comics. Just kind of felt like, is this a female or male mangaka? I wasn't sure. It felt very masculine. That might have been the emphasis on the sex. There was a less clear romance element to this, much more of a sexual element to this. Sometimes you can get both, but this one very much focused on the sex, and so it was lacking in emotional depth. I enjoyed it. Some of them were good, some of the stories were interesting, but overall it was just an interesting little kind of palate cleanser once again for all of the nonsense that I'd read. This was just a quick and easy one. I read it in next to no time, so yeah, I recommend if you've got your Futekia, check it out. It's a fairly new one that came out in March, right at the end. The last extra was on the 28th, so it was one of the final things that I read. And I read it in a bit of a break between reading the very last thing that I read for March. Now the final thing I read for March was Eternal Love. This is a June manga yaoi novel. This is written by Mizumi Takaoka and illustrated by someone who has a great name, Yukariko Jishoji. I love saying that, Jishoji. And this is the kind of Arabian Nights style yaoi novel that I was quite happy to finally get a copy of. This is about Tomoyuki Makabe, who is basically kidnapped, as he is, as you do, of course, by the charismatic, mysterious former classmate and former lover, Aswell al-Murshid, who lives in Medina, of course. Of course. Tomoyuki gets flown to England, and he's kidnapped from England. He's Japanese, of course. And it turns out that he went to universities. They even, describe the class of him as being upper middle class. And he goes to England to fancy, Oxford or Cambridge, one of those, to study, and he meets this dashing man that everyone's so enamored with, and he is utterly bewitched, and they end up becoming friends, and then he confesses without expecting anything, and then, Aswell is like, yes, let's get it on. So the two of them are just like super, super, super at it for the whole time that they're there, and then all of a sudden Aswell decides he's got to go. Sorry, I'll come back for you at some point. And it's been like 6 years, and Tomoyuki's heard nothing of him. He just got left behind, and there's been no contact, and so Tomoyuki's just kind of had to get on with his life and works really hard as a translator for business. And then he gets kidnapped, and it turns out that Aswell has kidnapped him, and he is, dun dun dun, heir to the throne. his dad's very ill, which just kind of gets glossed over now that I think about it. Like, does Aswell not have any feelings? His dad's on his deathbed, and he's busy getting it on kidnapping little Japanese men, causing international, it just, like, hello, what's going on here? It is absolutely nonsensical. It's basically about the two of them not talking to each other, of course, and then how on earth can they be together? And I thought I would like it. I thought I would enjoy it. And you know what? I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the forced sex. This seems so old. I have to say the translation was done impeccably. The person who translated this, absolutely fantastic. Well done. The flowery language, the expression, oh, so good. This person did their homework. And you know what it says? English translation by design. They didn't even bother putting the person's name on this. I am utterly appalled because this is great translation work for what is such a shoddy story. It's quite funny to hear the author talk about at the end what they were thinking, and basically how they'd been asked to create a BL version of a Harlequin novel. And this is a Harlequin novel. I'm convinced this is just a rip-off of a Harlequin novel. She says, I was completely enamoured by the Harlequin shakes, so when my editor asked if I'd be interested in doing something Arabian, I jumped at the chance. And I think she did a lot of hard work. I do think that she did try to, and she perfectly acknowledges that her story is not great. Which I think is very good of her. But the person who did the English version, well done. It's very nicely done. It's just a shame that June Manga did not see fit to actually, say who you were. Anyway, my book is very nicely done. It's very good quality. It's in good nick. I'm really happy with the actual book. But the story was a bit of a letdown. The characters are not likeable. Tomoyuki is a moany wee biatch who can't stand up for himself. And Aswell is an arrogant arse who needs a good slap down. I really did not like either of them. Zafar, who is the cousin, is by far the best. Oh, no, maybe is it Samira? Samira is the best. Samira is the best because she's basically like, no. She's supposed to get married to Aswell, but is actually in love with Zafar. And from the beginning, you're like, these two should be together. And it's like, oh, yes, of course, because they're in love with each other. This was, it just felt like a rip-off. It just felt like a Harlequin novel, except Tomoyuki is supposed to be a man. And I know that Harlequin novels are meant to be a particular kind of novel. And I'm not dissing them, because there are times when I have read Harlequin novels and Mills and Boon, and I've loved them. But if I'm going in, I want to know that that's what I'm reading. I've chosen to read that. I have an expectation. And this is a yaoi novel, and so I expect at least that the character will not be imbued with a Harlequin female lead mentality. That there might be, a different, there might be something else there. And it was just so, like, I really didn't like the main characters. I didn't like it at all. So that's why I stopped and read I Peeped at My Childhood Friends Having Sex, because I was like, enough with these characters. I don't like them. And it's just such a shame, because the setting and the country and all of that were great, but the two leads were not likeable. And you know how they ended up? This might be a spoiler, but you know what? This book's been out for ages. Just skip over. Just don't listen to me at the end then. I'm going to spoil it for you. It's not really a spoiler. They get together in the end. It's not really a spoiler. There's no tension in this. There's no tension. Anyway, so they get together. And you know where they end up? in a South Sea island. It's like this book is tone deaf for the ages because it's not meant for now. It's not meant for now. It's not meant for real life. It's not meant for this time period. This is a book that belongs 20 years ago, and it was probably from 20 years ago. I mean, when was it actually published? I'm trying to see. 2007 and then 2008. So actually 10, 12, 13 years ago. The fact that these two people who are privileged and rich and end up being able to live the lives that they want to, giving up all the responsibility that comes with those privileges, and being like, yeah, it's cool, I own all these islands. And I'm like, what about the people that live there? And they're just like, servants. Oh, made me so mad. So yeah, I did not enjoy this final read in March. And I'm now looking forward to what I'm reading in April. Because, yeah, this was like one of the lowest things, one of the worst things I read. And it's a whole book, a whole last book. I did not enjoy it. So yeah, I do not recommend Eternal Love. The drawings, though, were nice. And the translation was very well done. But as Mizumi Takaoka herself recognises, this is a first grader novel. Poor excuse for a harlequin, if you ask me. So yeah, not good. So that is everything that I read for the month of March, and it's substantially more than I had actually originally planned, but not necessarily what I had planned, but certainly more than I had planned. And what was really interesting, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, is how many times throughout the month, in various different ways, the roles or the dynamics of a couple were shown to be kind of flipped. So when we think of who is the uke and who is the seme based on how they are presenting and how they have been presented by the mangaka or the author, and we as a reader are being sneakily kind of thought along here, this is how it should be, here's your crumbs, you fall in your crumbs, and then boom, no, ha ha ha, this person's the seme, this person's the uke. Or even better, and I love a good reversal, I love a good, hey, this is what I need from you right now, and the partner saying, yes, I'm very willing to give that to you, let's change roles. And I love that, and it was so much this month. It just was in so many works, and it was in manga, and it was in stories. I mean, I did not see it coming in the Megaverse, but it was in the Megaverse as well, and I was like, yes. I waited so long for this. It was great. It was honestly great. So yeah, it came in a lot. It was even in the print, the physical titles at the very beginning as well. There was definitely a lot of, oh, you thought this? Well, actually, this. Ha 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 ha. And a couple of times, throughout the month, there was me going, oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. And I appreciate it. Because very often it's the measure of the craft of the creator to lull you into a false sense of this is how it is, when actually, you were wrong. It's like a creator just being like cheeky, and I like that. And also I like it when it changes the dynamic of the couple. I like that as well. So that was a really nice thing about this month. What was not a nice thing about this month was how much editing I have to do for this one big long video. January there was 2 wrap-up videos, February there was 4, and this month was 1. And this is deliberate. I have been trying to see which is the best way for me to do this, if I'm going to do this, and I do want to. And I think January was the best month. 2 wrap-up videos per month is probably a good idea. To have one in the middle of the month and one at the end. So if you have a preference, if you have watched some of my wrap-up videos, what do you think? Do you think one, mid-month and one at the end. I think that might work better, because this is a long ass video. Honestly, no one has listened to me just now. But yeah, if you have a preference, or if you have followed them, let me know what you think in terms of actually making these videos. And also, any more recommendations for male romance, or Chinese BL, because just fangirl with me about 1,000 Autumns and Word of Honor. But no spoilers in the comments. Come on, guys. We're international. We're behind. We're so behind. All these, people who've been able to watch it all the way to the end, they're already going, oh my god, it was so... And I'm like, shh. Nope, don't tell me. So yeah, fangirl about Chinese stuff below. Tell me male romance recommendations below. What do you think I should be doing for my wrap-up videos? Let me down below. All of that down below. And if you fancy it, thumbs up. Subscribe if you want. All that good stuff. I make yaoi BL male romance videos, so if you like that, stick around. And remember, every day is a BL day. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.